Hi guys, in today's video we are going to be taking a look at the Eternal Flame loadout for Snapdragon in Plants vs Zombies Battle for Neighborville. So the idea of this series is to give you guys some ideas of playstyles and upgrade combinations you can try with different characters that may give you an added challenge, help you to get more vanquishes, give you some different strategies to try with your favourite character, or share a new perspective on a character you are not so fond of. Also, please note that this class was made with a character at Master Rank, meaning they have all the perks for the character unlocked, so some perks you may have to work up to. As usual, just before we begin, remember to hit those like and subscribe buttons if you enjoy the content on this channel and want to help it grow. Anyway, let's get started. So the loadout I have put together today is called the Eternal Flame, and the idea of this loadout is to make Snapdragon's primary and secondary weapons insanely efficient. We'll be focusing on perks that really allow Snapdragon to stay in the fight much longer and increase your overall damage output. Now by default, Snapdragon's Flame Blower and Flare Ball can last a considerable amount of time and do a lot of damage. However, with this loadout you are going to be able to almost double the duration of these attacks, meaning Snapdragon is going to be able to keep those zombie flames burning and those zombies nice and toasty for much longer, allowing you to deal with multiple enemies even better than Snappers can already. The loadout also aims to prevent those awkward moments where you get vanquished because Snappers has managed to overheat himself. Anyway, let's take a look at the perks for this loadout. So we have Excellent Accelerant that costs 2 points, Coolant which also costs 2 points, and finally Ventilation that costs 3 points. So I'm going to start off with Ventilation, as this is the perk that is going to enable us to pretty much double the time in which it takes Snapdragon's weapons to overheat. So this perk reduces the overheated duration of Flame Blower and Flare Ball when Blue Blazes is launched. So when Blue Blazes is activated, it will remove any heat that has been gained whilst using Snapdragon's primary or secondary weapon, and because of this effect you can use it to pretty much instantly cool down your weapon. So the way you can double the duration of his weapons is by immediately activating Blue Blazes when your weapon overheats. So instead of the cooldown being 5 seconds, when using this perk and strategy it's reduced to between about 2 and 2.5 seconds, so that is at least 50% speed increase, which can make a huge difference in combat situations. The other added benefit of course is that the Blue Blazes ability can do a significant amount of damage and act as a distraction whilst your weapon cools down and you can go back to burning those zombie butts. Next up we have Excellent Accelerant. So tying this loadout with its name, the Eternal Flame, the next upgrade I have chosen is designed to keep those zombies burning for as long as possible so they're nice and crispy. This upgrade makes any enemies that are set on fire stay on fire for a considerably longer period of time. For any of you who are unaware, as you'd expect as Snapdragon does fire-based attacks, there is a chance for an enemy to ignite or catch on fire. If this happens to a zombie, they will take burn damage over time that stacks with the base damage you deal with your attacks, so the longer they stay burning for, the more damage you will do. Combine that with Ventilation perk and you pretty much can keep an enemy constantly on fire when fighting them. This perk can also be particularly useful when using Flare Ball, as the long range attack has some splash damage, meaning you don't necessarily have to directly hit an enemy to do damage. If an opponent is hit by the splash damage, they have a chance to ignite. Another plus to this perk is that it can still do damage to enemies even if you have to retreat. I often find using Swoop Slam can be an effective way to escape combat, but just be aware that if there are multiple enemies you're trying to escape from at the same time, Swoop Slam does keep you in the air for a couple of seconds and you can get shot down pretty quickly, but it just means if you do have to leave a situation you can still do damage and potentially get an assist or a shared vanquish. So now that we've talked about how to increase the duration of Snapdragon's main weapons and keep zombies burning for as long as possible, we are going to talk about the final perk called Coolant, which can extend the duration of the primary and secondary weapons even further. So Coolant reduces the overheat of Flame Blower and Flare Ball when igniting an enemy. Now you can probably see why I chose these three perks, as they actually complement one another quite nicely. So essentially you can constantly spread fire and rarely run out of juice, hence this is why I called the loadout the Eternal Flame. Once they start feeling the heat there's no escaping, even if they do try to stop, drop and roll. Finally, let's talk about the playstyle of this loadout. Now, fortunately, Snapdragon has a lot of utility when it comes to weaponry. He has both close range and long range attacks, so you can actually play this as a really up close and personal class, or you can stay at the back and provide artillery support. In terms of long range, the flare ball with its extended duration can be fired 20 times, if not more, so in a game of turf takeover when enemies tend to group together a lot, this can be very useful, especially if you have good cover and can aim accurately. The downside with staying at the back with this loadout is that you kind of have to waste blue blazes, as its homing range isn't massive. Don't get me wrong, it can go far, but you still have to be at medium to close range for it to work effectively. The other issue is that flare ball isn't particularly the easiest to aim when at distance, but it is doable. I probably just have terrible aim. So although this long range strategy is an option, I personally think the close quarters strategy with Snapdragon probably works better. He's built for those types of engagements, and I believe it is much easier to ignite zombies with the flame blower compared to the flare ball, so you probably reap the rewards of the upgrades more often when using this style. Overall, whilst I think there are potentially some other upgrades that work really well for our good friend snappers, I like creating loadouts that serve a different purpose and also revolve around a theme. I think sometimes that to make a loadout enjoyable, it doesn't necessarily have to be the best loadout, they can be different or even silly. I also think that this loadout does somewhat solve one of Snapdragon's weaknesses in terms of overheating. Anyway guys, that's about it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you think of this loadout in the comments below, and let me know if there are any loadouts I should try. But other than that, remember to subscribe, and I shall see you in the next one. Okay, thanks guys, bye.